Welcome back to MTP Daily. NBC News has confirmed the identity of another person in that June 26 meeting at Trump Tower with Donald Trump Jr., Paul Manafort, and Jared Kushner. So we now know of 8 people who were in the room. According to a source with direct knowledge of the meeting, an American-based employee of a Russian real estate company was there. He reportedly was there to represent Emin and Aris Agalarov, the Russian developers who hosted the Miss Universe pageant in Russia in 2013 and who helped arrange the meeting along with publicist Rob Goldstone. But it's where that information came from that might hint at a big development in the entire Russia investigation. Here's what I mean. The developer's lawyer confirmed he received a phone call from a representative of special counsel Bob Mueller over the weekend. They want to interview him, but no date has yet been set. Now, that could mean, if nothing else, the special counsel was looking into this meeting at Trump Tower. And also breaking today, Ian Bremmer, a friend of this show, was the first to report of a second meeting between President Trump and Vladimir Putin at the G20. The White House confirms to NBC News that the president did speak with Putin toward the end of what they're calling a couples-only social dinner. There isn't a readout of that discussion, and no staff or cabinet members attended that dinner. Joining me now, Texas Republican Congressman Will Hurd. He sits on the House Intelligence Committee. Let's focus on Russia, specifically that meeting between Don Jr. and that Russian lawyer. Congressman, there's been a discrepancy on when the Intelligence Committees found out about this. When did you guys find out about the meeting?
Oh, I think most of us found out at the same time it was being published in the press. But what's going to happen is Robert Mueller is going to be talking to everybody that was probably in that meeting. He's going to decide whether there was any violation of the law and how this fits in the broader investigation, criminal investigation that he's involved in.
You've said you wouldn't have taken that meeting, the one that Don Jr., that Paul Manafort, the campaign chairman, a veteran of the campaigns, and Jared Kushner were all in, the senior advisors to the candidate Donald Trump. Are you worried at all that this could turn out to be criminal?
Well, I wouldn't. I agree with that statement, Katie. I wouldn't have accepted that meeting. Part of that is based on the fact that I spent 9.5 years as an undercover officer in the CIA, and I dealt with Russian intelligence pretty much in most of my tours. And this is, the Russian intelligence is notorious for trying to do setups, trying to get people in compromising positions. I think I trust Robert Mueller to go over this with a fine-tooth comb to determine whether there was indeed anything violating the law. But I would also like to get all these details out.
Yeah.
Let's stop hearing dribs and drabs, because this takes away from this is a distraction, and it takes away from broader conversation we should be having.
Yeah.
Like, how do we be prepared for the Russians to do this again? It was clear the Russians tried to influence our elections. They're going to try to do it again in 2018. Do we have a strategy to deal with counter covert influence? And also, we should be talking about other countries like China as well. While we're focused on Russia, we know the Chinese have been involved in getting into our systems and into the private sector as well. And we still believe that they should adhere to some agreements that were made under the last administration.
So you brought up 2 things I want to follow up on. First, that you want all this information to get out, Congressman. Do you think that the White House and that Don Jr. have been as forthcoming as they should be? Should there just be a complete list of everybody, every foreign national they might have met with during the campaign, the transition?
Well, I think the public provision of emails is a pretty bold step. I think with folks that are currently,
but we're still finding out who was in that meeting. We're still getting names. Right. That news is still, as you say, dripping daily.
Look, when it comes to the Russia investigation, oversharing is probably a good thing, and that everybody should be reviewing anybody that was connected to the campaign or to the administration should be overshare when it comes to contact with the Russians. I think that's not a bad place to be in order to prevent these kinds of reactions when information does come out.
So the other thing you brought up was your 9.5 years at the CIA. I did a long piece about this meeting for Sunday Night with Megyn Kelly, and I talked to former Moscow station chief John Cipher, and he said that essentially this meeting to him, given his experience in Moscow and his experience in the CIA, looked very much like human fishing, like the Kremlin was trying to dangle something in front of the Trump campaign to see whether or not they would be interested in it. And we found out from those emails that, yes, they were interested in it.
Look, it is indeed a tactic that the Russians have used time and time again. Whether that was indeed the case in this specific meeting that we're talking about, we got to leave that up to Robert Mueller to try to investigate and understand the motivations behind the Russians reaching out. And I think that's an important thing to understand. But it does reek of Russian intelligence motivation and tactics. And again, when it comes to Russia, they're not our allies, they're our adversary, and we need to treat them that way. And they're going to resort to asymmetrical warfare to try to undergird trust in our institutions. And we can't let that happen. And I think there are many of us that have been exposed to Russia that are trying to prevent that from happening in the future.
Congressman Hurd, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.